Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our Friday demo. Happy Friday to you, and I'm happy you could join me today for our little painting we're going to do. We're going to try something kind of fun. I have a couple different ideas in mind for what it might turn out to be, but it's a variation of an open cup pour. I've done these before. It's a very fun technique, and you can design it to have negative space if you want to, which is really cool. I like to, when I normally want to have negative space in my paintings, I like to design it into the entire process. Or we could just go ahead and tilt the whole thing out like a normal painting I normally do. But you have the option of both with this particular technique in the way I have it set up. So, welcome everyone. We'll get started in a second. Hey, Kathy and Nancy and Susan. And Novala is here. Hey, Novala. And Jay is here. So, welcome everyone. I'm sure I missed a few people, but welcome to you. Diane is here. All right, cool. So, I'm going to flip the camera over in a second and I'll show you the colors I have mixed up. It's a very limited palette. I have got 4 colors, so that's about as few as I normally use. 3 is about the minimum you can really go with to get a relatively interesting painting. 4 is one extra, and that includes the base coat color. So we're going to take a look at the palette. It's kind of a complementary palette, um, and it's very interesting. And I've focused on values, so I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So let's go ahead and flip the camera over. I forgot. I just pulled my palette knife off my canvas. I've got to spritz the back and get that kind of tightened up. So I'm going to do that quickly here. So I just like to uh, give it a little spritz in the corners with my water bottle, and then like one kind of big squirt on the back end. That's pretty much all you need to do, and that'll get nice and tight in the next 10, 30 seconds here. So let's go ahead and flip the camera. I'll show you what we'll be working with. So here we go. So my 12 by 16 canvas right here. It's getting nice and tight, which is just what I like. And here are our colors. So we've got 4 colors and a base coat. And the base coat color and this blue color here, these are the same exact color. I mixed up a big cup here and then poured some off into the smaller cup here. So we're working with one blue color. We have got this very light, it's almost a white, it's an off-white. It's actually an old cloud mixture I had, my 4-part cloud mix. It's been sitting around a while, so I don't think really it'll do a whole lot. But I also put some silver in here just to make it a little bit darker. It's still pretty darn white. And this is some Payne's Gray. And then finally, we've got this beautiful metallic orange, kind of a rusty orange color. And these are the orange and the blue, orange blue, complementary colors. So this is also a very dark blue. So we've got 2 dark blues, and this is also a super, super light blue actually, because there's a little bit of silver in there, which is kind of like a blue kind of color. So kind of 3 blues, light, medium, and dark, and then 1 complementary color, this metallic orange. And I use Artist Loft metallic orange, and I put in some either copper woodwork or bronze is what I used in this particular case. And there might be some gold in here as well. This is kind of a leftover paint I had mixed up previously. So this is a complementary palette, um, very simple. So basically, 2 colors is what we're dealing with, 3 different variations of blue and an orange. So that's about as simple as you can get, but hopefully this will be a very interesting painting. So the only thing we have to be concerned with is trying not to get some real muddy colors, but I don't think we'll get really, really muddy. As long as we can kind of keep the orange away a little bit from our medium blue, I think we'll be okay. We'll find out though. So what I have got here is a cup. This is just a regular plastic cup, smallish one, and I have marked it off at 5 ounces, and 6 ounces is about what you need to cover a 12 by 16 for a ring pour, I've gone a little bit less. And that's just in case I want to turn this into a negative space pour. I have the option of going either way. So I could probably tilt this out into a regular, painting, just tilt it all the way around like I normally would do. Or I'll have a little bit less paint in here if I want to try to keep some negative space. We'll see what happens, and I'll just make that decision as I go. I have no preconceived ideas about composition or anything. So what we're going to do, I have taken this cup, I've marked where 5 ounces are, and then I have cut the bottom out. So there is no bottom in here. And so what this is going to be is basically an open cup, like, I don't know exactly how you would say it, an open cup and drag pour. So we know about a flip and drag, where you layer a cup, you flip it, and then you kind of drag it around. Well, this is the same, only with an open cup. So we're going to put our cup on our base coat. We're going to layer our cup in here as you would like a regular open cup. But instead of letting the paint flow out on its own, I'm going to move the cup around and let it flow out gradually. So it's kind of a variation of a flip and drag, only with like an open cup wrinkle thrown in there. So kind of an interesting, fun technique. I've done this before. It's a cool technique, variation of the flip and drag, but I really like it a lot. So let's get started. What we're going to do first is cover our base coat, or cover our canvas with our base coat. And I'm going to make it a little bit thicker this time, just because I want some of our paint to flow out into the base coat as a normal open cup would. So it's going to be a little bit thicker on top. I'm not going to do a flood coat or anything like that. I'll just spread it out with my palette knife. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll see what we can create here. So here's my blue. And by the way, this is a mixture of a couple different things. This is a lot of white in here. There is some light blue permanent, which I have been using a lot for a course I just came out with, the consistency course. And there's also a little bit of gray in here. It's just kind of a neutralized gray that I came out with. I didn't want it to be a really, really bright blue, so it's kind of a knocked down, a little bit more subtle, medium blue, which I really quite like a lot. So we're going to spread this out. And again, this blue in the cup next to me, this small cup here, is the exact same color. I just poured it out of the big cup because I want to have that in our composition as well. So just these 4 colors together are going to create hopefully something very cool and a very interesting painting. So I'm just spreading this out. I have probably too much for a regular base coat, but again, I kind of want to leave a little extra. This might be a little much though. And just so that paint can kind of flow out in the. So I know I always do it. I'm going to take a little out. So that should be good. It was a little too much, And then I'll torch this probably. Got quite a few air bubbles here. So that's looking good. Let's go ahead and set that aside. Let's give this a little torch. Let's pop those air bubbles, get those out of there. That's looking pretty good. All right. By the way, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And as I see them. All right, so let's see here. We've got our base coat on. Don't worry, I'm not too worried about the edges. I'm going to be tilting off some corners, some edges. Worst case, I can always go back and touch them up. So I'm not worried about that at all. So let's go ahead and put our cup on. Now, this is kind of important. We're going to be dragging this around And we're going to have about 5 ounces of paint in there. I don't want to start in the center because I'd have to kind of drag it this way, and then I'd have to drag it all the way back this way. So I want to start somewhere kind of on the perimeter, so I have a clear shot kind of all the way through the composition. So you can decide this wherever you want to go. I'm probably going to go down. I don't want to go right in the corner, but maybe up a little bit, kind of right there. And then I can drag it up, I can drag it down, I can kind of drag it all the way around the canvas. If I'm in the center, that kind of limits me a bit. So I'm going to start here, and then let's go ahead and add our paints. And Brenda's got a question right off the bat. She's asking, do I find the Artist Loft Metallics to be one of the less strong metallic brands? Less strong in how metallic-y they are? I don't think so. I find them very nice colors, and there are some colors you just can't get in other brands. They're metallic orange. I don't think I've ever found that in another brand. They have a metallic white, which I love. I use a lot of different metallics, though. I use a lot of different brands of gold and silver. So I am not just exclusively Artist Loft. It's just one brand I happen to use, and I really like them a lot. And they're quite easy to find. So it's a good question. Oh, and she's asking, doesn't take, oops, sorry. Like she's asking, they don't take over the painting. Yeah, they're not nearly as like potent, I guess you could say, as like the Deco Art. Even like the Deco Art can really take over. The 24K golds can really take over your painting a lot. Some of those other craft paints can as well. But Artist Loft are great. Liquitex are great. I use both of them quite a bit. So let's go ahead and start layering our cup. And I think I'm going to start with my darkest color first. I'm going to go with a little bit of the Payne's Gray. And you can add as much or as little as you like. Maybe I'll go right into the orange next. I'm going to go a little bit with our white. I don't want to overpower it with the white, but then some of our blue. So I'll probably try to keep that orange away from the blue. So I'll probably do some kind of a barrier color in there somewhere. So there's the Payne's Gray. I think I might just go right to the blue again, just a little bit. A little bit of white. And maybe a little of our orange. So we don't have a ton of variation. There's only 4 colors. So a little more of the Payne's Gray. I'm going to do a touch of the blue. I might go back to the Payne's Gray a little bit. A little more orange. Some of my paint is leaking out a tiny bit, I see. That's okay. I'm not too worried about that. It's going to be leaking out a lot more in just a second. So there's a little white, and I think that's it. We've got our 5 ounces, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to, let's see, maybe I'll flip the camera so you can get a little bit of view. I'm going to see if I can just leave that sit there for a second, because my hand's going to be kind of in the way of my dragging, perhaps. Let me see what the other camera angle looks like. Here we go. I might have to lower it. Oops. Made with the adjustments. There we go. I think that's pretty good. So I'm getting kind of some paint coming out. There's probably a little tiny crack in the cup. But let's go ahead and drag this around our canvas and see what we get. And it's quite easy to drag this kind of open cup, but you still have to be kind of careful not to let too much paint out at once. So if it starts coming out too much, just kind of push down on the cup and let it let kind of the weight of the cup stop the paint flow. I'm just kind of going slowly here, letting the paint kind of come out, trying to control the flow a little bit. And it will mix quite a bit as it comes out of here. Same with a flip and drag, but I kind of like that. We want some mixing, um, hopefully without getting a lot of mud, but I don't think we'll get tons of mud. It looks like we got some cool white things happening with that old cloud pour mix. And where do we want to go here? Maybe take it back this way a tiny bit. I think I'm just about there. That is it with our cup. That's all the paint out of there. We've got a lot of cool things happening right here. We got kind of over blended in here a tiny bit, and we ended up with this kind of weird shape right there. That's okay though. I'm not too worried about it. So I'll just set the cup aside for now. I'll just let this kind of sit here for a minute and let some of those cells pop up. Looks like we did get a lot of cool cells that are happening. So let me go back to the top camera. And let's see. So I'll just let that kind of sit. It looks kind of like a weird worm or amoeba or something. And hopefully we can create some more interest in a second. We start moving the paint around. Let's see here. All right. And Naval is asking if I put some cloud mix in there. Yeah, the white or this kind of light silvery color is an old cloud mix I had sitting on the shelf, some leftover paint. This is my 4-part cloud mix. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be really reactive, but I thought, why not give it a try as my light value or my light color? And it's still quite reactive, so pretty cool. And I put some silver in there to knock it down just a touch. So, all right. So let's go ahead. I'm going to move a few of these things out of the way and do a little bit of tilting. And so I'm still not sure if I want to try to keep negative space yet or not. I'm going to try to tilt a little bit quickly and kind of sharply to get my paints to move in some interesting directions. And that's how you kind of get the paint to do some cool things, kind of tilt aggressively. And so we're going to give that a shot now. I'm going to maybe move this right here down into this corner first. Let's see what happens. And I'm going to probably lose some paint. That's okay. So that's much quicker and more aggressive than I normally tilt. And because I just want to get some interesting shapes happening with the paint movement. And that's pretty cool. I kind of like that. So I'm just deciding what I want to do next. I'm probably going to tilt over this corner. Kind of get the paint to move over there kind of quickly. I'm going to bring it down as well, just to all right. So I'm just going to let that sit there for a moment and just take a look at it. Now, one thing we have got, and you never quite know, the orange kind of is kind of buried under a lot of these colors. You have hints of it, accents of it. Over here, it's kind of ringed around some of these cells, which is kind of cool. You never quite know what's going to happen with the metallics, though. It's mixed the same consistency as the other paints, which is what I normally do. but so it's in there. It's spread kind of throughout, and we do have a lot of gray. So the white and the Payne's gray kind of mixed together quite a bit to create some kind of these neutralized grays. I kind of like it. We've got some cool, interesting, blue negative shapes coming up. We've got a lot of cloudy reaction. That's much more than I thought we were going to get, and it's probably going to continue to develop as this sits here. You can give it a little torch if you wanted to. Um, Normally, I don't do a lot of torching. So let's see if there's anything else I want to do. I quite like this corner up here. I'm not thrilled with this corner. I might want to kind of pull some of this up this diagonal direction here. Um, I do quite kind of like some of these the blue kind of popping through this gray, but I think I might want to tilt some of that off. So let's give it a try. Just kind of move those great big cells up in the middle, closer to the center. So there you go. That was, that's like a executive decision, you know, tilting that. And of course, with your paintings, you can tilt as much or as little as you want. I think I like that more now, though. So we've kind of pulled some of these large cells kind of up more into the center. I like this larger white shape up here. And I think I'm pretty happy with that. So again, it's a very interesting painting. You never quite know, and I was completely happy to tilt the whole thing. But I kind of like the way the blue base coats kind of integrated into kind of the rest of the painting. So I think I might just leave it just like that. And then I can go, after we're done here, I can go around and fill in all of these little corners that I need to touch up of the bare canvas. So I see a lot of screaming, and that's typical. A lot of people scream at me for tilting, but I kind of like that quite a bit. So let's see here. So let's see if there's anything. Uh, there's anything else I want to do? Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. If we continue to tilt, you're going to run the risk of tilting off more of your negative space. You're kind of at the bare minimum, in my opinion, for negative space. We've got these few small pieces. This is that's pretty small there in this corner, but it is matched up here. So I'm okay with that. I think that's kind of cool. Plus, the cloudy effect might continue to evolve here as the time goes by. So let's go ahead and let me see if I can answer any questions you might have. I'm going to go back over here so you can look at me for a little bit. I know that's thrilling for you. And see if you have any questions. And then we'll just let this sit here for maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll take a look at it and see if it's developed anymore. So, all right, let me just scroll back up here and see if any questions came in. So, well, thanks, Susan. I appreciate Susan enjoying the subtle orange. I appreciate that. I was hoping for a little more spotlight of the orange, but you never quite know. But thanks for that. Let's see here. And thanks again, Susan, for the confidence in my tilting abilities. Not everyone shares your opinion, but that's okay. And I see, judging from the comment, I know it's Donna pointing out the tiny, minute details. And there's a little dot of gray in the upper corner. I'm going to leave it, Donna. I think I'm going to just let that go. I might, you could pour a little bit on there when you're touching up the corners if you wanted to get rid of it. I think I'll just let it go. Perhaps I'll do it afterwards. And Jay is talking about the lower left corner, perhaps tilting that off. Yeah, that's always a possibility. You know, you can always tilt. I encourage you to tilt um, however you feel like you want to in your paintings, um, and give it a shot. I always think tilting and over tilting, even if you're kind of new to pouring, tilting and then over tilting is a really good thing. Know the extent and the extremes, how far you can go with tilting. So I always encourage people to, uh, just wreck a couple paintings and just over tilt them just to see what's possible. Because until you do, you're going to want to be constrained and you'll be very conservative. Um, but if you just go for it, sometimes amazing things can happen. And Chris is asking, when I do the background pour, do I use the Floetrol and paint or something else? I pretty much use the same recipe as I would use for all the other colors. In this case, this is just the easy formula. This is 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part paint, and some water to get it to the correct consistency. And by the way, I used consistency number 3 for this one. Um, and you can find out what that means in the consistency course if you are interested. And for my members, you have access to it already, so it's waiting for you. But yeah, it's the same. It's the same exact formula as all my other colors. Now, if it was a cloud pour or a pearl pour, those are different circumstances. So that's a special formula I would use for, say, a pearl pour. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. I got a little tickle in my throat. But that's a good question, though. Chris, excuse me. All right. Well, thanks, Nancy, for the nice comments. I appreciate that. And Novaz got a funny comment. She says, I trust your ability, Brad. Sometimes I just don't understand it. Well, you don't have to like every painting. Not everyone does. And every painting is a unique experience. And I never know exactly what's going to happen, nor should you. If you're becoming bored with your pours, like the outcomes, something's wrong. So always be, excited and surprised by the outcome of your pours, I think, because that's half the fun of this style of painting. But again, no one, you don't have to like every painting I do. I certainly don't like every painting I do, but that's just kind of the way it goes, again, with this style. And let's see here. Lily has a comment. She says, too much tilting leads to a lot of jagged lines for me. I hate them. Yeah, that's the balancing act of tilting just enough without over tilting. And when you over tilt, sometimes you can get those really crazy, jaggedy lines. So yeah, there is definitely a balancing act going on with tilting. You have to, kind of know how much to tilt, but then kind of know when to stop. So, but I mean, in order to know that, you have to over tilt, to find out. So it's all a learning process. And then once you know how far, you can hold back and you can kind of stop at the appropriate time. Okay, let's see here. And Kathy is got a comment. I tried, I think, your recipe for the cloud pearl pours. Any additional advice for maybe the base? Well, we're going to be getting into the pearl pour technique next month in October inside the membership, and all your questions should be answered then. We haven't really talked about it too much. I've done a couple, like I did one a couple weeks ago, a pearl pour, but you have to get the consistency just right. You should be pretty accurate with your measurements, and then also cross your fingers, because the pearl pour, there's a couple ways we're going to try them and do them. Um, it is it is not an exact science by any means. It takes a lot of luck to do them, but after you've done them for a while and gotten some good results, they come easier with more practice. So it's definitely one you have to kind of practice a lot, but there's a lot of luck involved. And the paint consistency is very important. How much paint you put on the canvas is also very important, and how much you tilt off is also important. So there's a lot to those techniques. It's one of the most advanced, and it can be very, very frustrating too. Um, so that is part of it. But yeah, it's a tricky one. But we'll talk about that a lot in a couple weeks here coming up. Let's see, and and thanks for all the wonderful support, everyone. I love that. Um, Kathy, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, Thank you very much. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the painting again and see if anything has developed. We've gotten a few other things kind of popping up. So let's go ahead and take a quick look here. Let me straighten that out. All right, here we go. So we've got a few more cells that have popped up kind of in this area. We've gotten cells kind of over here that have popped up. Down here we've got some cells. These are kind of pearl cells slash cloudy cells that have kind of popped up. And part of the reason is because we did that extra tilting and we tilted kind of quickly, we thinned out these top layers of paint and allowed kind of that white to pop through. So I think it's kind of an interesting painting. It might still develop um, beyond our time here. It usually takes up to an hour where the cells continue to float to the surface and the pearls or whatever begin to form. So, but it's quite a nice painting. I kind of like it. I wasn't too thrilled with the outcome at the beginning. I was hoping to keep some of these colors a little more separated, but I kind of like it now. And we've got these little that orange kind of halo around all of these little cells and things, which I think is a very interesting effect. So I think it turned out pretty cool. So, all right. So let's go back here. Okay, well, that is it for our Friday demo. It's a pretty quick one today, but this is a fun way of painting using that kind of open cup that you would kind of open. I have to think of a name for this. I don't even know what to call it. An open cup drag, perhaps. But you can get some very cool paintings, especially if you work on your tilting and tilt kind of aggressively at the beginning and get some very interesting movement of the paint. And it can be a whole lot of fun. And of course, I was using this old cloud mix that I just happened to have. It still works pretty good, but you don't have to use that to get good results. So hope you enjoyed the demo. And by the way, what was I going to say? I hope you have a great weekend. So that's probably what I was going to say. Have a great weekend. Do some painting and feel free to share it in the Facebook groups. I'd love to take a look at what you've got going on. So thanks, everyone. I hope to see you again real soon. Take care and have a great night.